South Sudan, which was really exciting because it's the world's newest country. It actually was added while we were cooking the blog, so now we're technically cooking 196 countries. This hot, humid, tropical jungle swampland is a beautiful place to learn about some of the traditional African foods. And we had an extra special treat. We had a guest that many of you who have been following the blog for a long time will probably recognize, at least in name. And I'm going to give you a hint. This is his book, A World of Villages, a 6-year journey through Africa and Asia. And his first name is Brian, and his second name is Schwartz. And he came over and shared this meal with us, which I'm going to tell you all about in a moment. And he even read a wonderful passage from this book all about South Sudan. The food I made was foods that you might find in more of the cities of South Sudan. So first there was the flatbread called Kisra, if I'm pronouncing it right, and that's made with sorghum flour and wheat flour and water. It's actually vegan, and I had a lot of fun getting Brian to try to make it, and he's admitted many times to me that he's actually not a cook himself, so that was a little bit funny. Then we sat down at the table and we shared an amazing peanut stew that had beef and tons of spinach in it. I mean, I'm talking like 3 bunches, and the original recipes will even have 6 bunches of spinach in it. And the main flavor is peanut butter, which added just the most wonderful, nutty, hearty, sort of rib-sticking flavor. And we ate that with the kisra, and Brian was showing us how. And then on the side we had a tomato salad, and tomato salads are really popular in South Sudan. You can have them just with like chili pepper and onion, but there's also a version that has peanut butter in it as well, and that's like a lime peanut dressing. So it's actually pretty light and refreshing, and if you don't put too many chili peppers, it can actually be pretty cooling as well. I have to be honest, it took me a long time to invite Brian over to share a global table adventure with us. And part of that is because I was a little bit intimidated. When you have such a devoted and dedicated reader who shares comments all the time, you don't want to burst their bubble and sort of let them down on what the actual adventure is all about. So I wanted to make sure I did a good job, and like I said, I was nervous. So when he actually came over, he was extremely gracious and so grateful, and we had a wonderful time exchanging stories and especially listening to his. So the lesson this week is to not get so caught up in what somebody might think about what you're doing. If you're learning about other cultures in the world and you have a fun, enjoyable experience to share with somebody, then share it. The food might not come out perfect, but the company will be good, and you'll laugh and you'll have a great time. So until next time, happy stovetop travels from our global table adventure to yours.
One old man pulled out a long pipe, stuffed it with tobacco, and puffed away, noisily sucking in the smoke and expelling it in loud, contented sighs. The rest of the men were silent, and so was I. The starlight, the people around me, and the stillness of the night combined to fill me with an intense yet languorous contentment, a sort of happiness I had felt before in fleeting evanescent childhood dreams, and which in waking grown-up life can be recaptured only in small remote places under the vast and spangled dome of night. Many of the men around me, especially the older ones among them, shared this serenity, and it was for them something communal, something to be shared, something that bound them together. Their lives may have been poor and short and, worst of all from a Western standpoint, unvaried, but at least they had that. I slept soundly that night like a villager and woke at dawn. A few women were sitting outside the hut when I emerged, and when they saw me they led me tugging at my sleeve to a dusty clearing just beyond the houses. In the center of the clearing lay the carcass of a cow. A young Toposa warrior, stark naked and spattered with gore, straddled the body, hacking the meat with his spear. The man's eyes gleamed. Even the onlookers seemed strangely excited. Perhaps it was the smell of freshly spilled blood. I felt nervous without knowing why. Someone handed me a chunk of meat. The smell of slightly singed beef reminded me that, except for a few spoons of porridge the dour-faced woman had given me the night before. I had not eaten in almost 2 days. I ate hungrily and quite fast, and it was well that I did, because As I was chewing the last bit of gristle, a man came into the clearing and walked over to where I sat. He wore a uniform khaki shirt and trousers and was obviously not a villager. "I arrest you," he said. Okay, that's it. Oh, and then, a few hours later, I was with a Dutch geologist that gave me a ride. He was surprised that I had dared to spend the night with the deposer. "You were lucky the policeman found you," he said.
Isn't that amazing to hear somebody whose comments we've seen light up the pages of globaltableadventure.com, actually see him, hear his voice? It was really a treat.